day to each and everyone. We are students from class B216 and we will be presenting to you 10 facts about Dr. Paciano Laurel that we found inspiring and interesting, and how, in any way, it would make us a better Filipino and a better student. The stance of JPL in the Ray Conley case. In the year 1923, Dr. Paciano Laurel, being the Secretary of Interior and having the duty to supervise and control the city of Manila, supported the removal of Ray Conley, an American detective, from office due to his involvement to controversies such as bribery. However, Conley was still acquitted and was even ordered to be reinstated to office through Governor Wood's order. Dr. Paciano Laurel did not tolerate this action, as it reflects dishonesty and dishonor to the country, most especially to them as public servants. His co-Filipino officials at that time followed his actions and then resigned with him. Living in a generation with a government infested with corruption and deception, we aspire to have leaders that would also have the courage to withstand injustices and would not be easily swayed by temptations. Dr. Laurel's stern stance against the misconduct of Ray Conley and the resistance to Governor Wood's reinstatement order, as he believed that it was wrong, preserve his dignity and his fellow Filipino statements at that time. We believe that there is still hope that their attitude towards that situation will transcend to the present-day Filipino public officials we will have for the betterment of our country. The institution of the Lyceum of the Philippines University. After retiring from politics, having served in all three branches of the government, Dr. Paciano Laurel founded the Lyceum of the Philippines University in 1952, with the guiding principles and values of Veritas et Fortitudo, Prodeo et Patria, which means truth and fortitude for God and country. As students of this university built with Dr. Laurel's passion for education, we are very much delighted to embody the knowledge and values that we acquired and will acquire. Although regardless of which institution we are in, we would still study hard and strive hard. But having known our founder's legacy just adds pride to us students and prompted delight for his contribution to the education path of the Philippines.
We truly admire Dr. Paciano Laurel's passion for education, as his contribution to education here in the Philippines is monumental. He fought for Filipinos to have access to education and to have their economic development documented in books. This action of his inspired us to appreciate our access to education, as proper and good education is essential for all of us. He gave our country growth, better life, and empowered us to have integral development as a person. We thank him for addressing the youth of our country as he fought for a fruitful future. Dr. Paciano Laurel refused to draft even a single Filipino into the Japanese military, as he protected the rights of the Filipinos. He is known as the father of the 1934 Constitution and was a firm advocate of his countrymen. The Japanese sought to recruit Filipino soldiers in their war during the writing of the new Constitution, but Dr. Paciano Laurel was stubborn and refused. The Constitution was approved because he was able to gain the respect of the Japanese. He was completely aware of the situation and understood exactly where the country should go. He was the best candidate for president because of his mindset. He was one of the most intellectual beings admired by many. Although he was labeled as a traitor, his public sacrifice was crucial to the functioning of our state. He reminded us with his patriotism to have sense of responsibility towards our country, as its citizens help it grow. A nation belongs to everybody, not just one individual, as he taught us to work together.
Dr. Paciano Laurel attended interviews and publicly stated that he is opposed to the government implementing Bell Trade Act and parity rights, knowing that this is advocated by the Americans and will give the Americans the opportunity to exploit our resources, which Dr. Paciano Laurel does not favor. Dr. Jose P. Laurel action reminds and inspires all of us that when something injustice or unjust is happening in our country, especially when it comes to implementing laws and acts that may affect a large number of people adversely, we, as a student and as a Filipino, have the freedom and the right to speak out or voice out our opinions, particularly regarding on what is going on in our country. We must speak out and safeguard our rights and our country from those people who are exploiting it. Dr. Jose P. Laurel stood trial at the People's Court in 1946. And on the first day of the trial, he declared, "I am neither pro-Japanese nor pro-American. I am pro-Filipino." Dr. Jose P. Laurel's statement made a good impression to us. It serves as a reminder, particularly in these days where people fight one another over differences in who and what they support rather than being unified. It reminds us as a people of our nation that we should not choose on who to support or what color symbolizes good and bad. Let us not focus on a single person's ambitions and interests, but rather be able to think critically and prioritize the welfare and interests of our fellow Filipinos, as well as the best interests and welfare for our country.
Jose P. Laurel is one of the contributors and invited by Manuel L. Quezon in the making of the 1935 Constitution and to help the Philippines to gain its independence. As a Filipino, what JPL's contribution to the 1935 Constitution, now part of the 1987 Constitution, is that we are able to use it especially to this period where we are experiencing a lot of discrepancies brought by our government. For example, is the right to our freedom of speech. We tend to rant about the mistreatment of our government to its frontliners who are risking their lives to save another life. Moreover, the right to go to due process no matter what social class you are in. You must have your own lawyer in spite of poverty. Hence, because of this implemented constitution, we are able to exercise our rights as a Filipino, but up to limited extent only, because we must keep in mind that our actions must conform to its morality. JPL is one of the 20 selected party members of the delegation Kalibapi or the Kapisanan ng Paglilingkod para sa Bagong Pilipinas. The 1943 Constitution was completed with the help of the Japanese Imperial Army who promised to achieve the independence of the Philippines with their alliance. On October 14, 1943, the Assemblymen inaugurated JPL as the President of the country and newly formed 1943 Constitution. But then, a war was started, the reason why JPL flew to Japan and later was accused to treason with other officials. What JPL did was then disregarded. As a student and as a Filipino, what JPL did was a stepping stone to gain the independence of our country up to this generation. We must be eager to stand or fight for the betterment of our country. Moreover, we must deal or make connections with other countries that we will have something in return.
What I like about Jose P. Laurel is that when he asked, "How can we love our country?" he answered, "Not by words, but by deeds." If you reach this point of your life where you're looking for an answer on how you can love your country, then definitely Jose Laurel can give you an answer. JPL is one of the good leaders, I say, and you may be wondering why I said good instead of best. For me, the term best is something that has a specific focus on excellence. Like, for example, in our school, we get awarded because we are the best in history, best in Filipino, best in English, and so on. But JPL is not like that. He used all his cards in playing during his service to his Filipino and his country to provide a solution to each problem that he had to face. He did not limit himself based on what he can only do as an individual. Instead, He extended it because he knows that his capabilities are guided by his principles and values. He aimed for an equal distribution of service not only through his words but through his deeds, and it is really evident, specifically the good deeds that everyone in this country was able to get benefit from. In his last capacity, he was in charge of maintaining peace and order throughout the country. So what did he do? In order to protect the people, his people, from the brutality of the victorious enemy, Dr. Laurel had to make a show of cooperating with the occupiers. Although he lived a life checkered with troubles, success, tribulations, honors, and afflictions, at the end of the day, it was all worth it because he gained a revered place in the memory of our nation. Can you imagine that? Like, you have to sacrifice yourself just for the others? Despite the evils surrounding him, he chose to live. And he stand up for what he believes is right, even if it means standing alone. That is why he was known as the leader of all seasons. Knowing all of this as a student and as a Filipino, I know that there can be no other Jose Paciano Laurel who can ever replace him. But what he did really inspired me to become one, to become like him. And I should have to, not because others can. It is something that I find fulfilling and successful when the time where I'll be looking back on what did I contribute for the success and welfare of the people and for the country. Dr. Laurel is my definition of honest people don't insinuate. We are all clear-minded. The moment he steps down from his position as the Secretary of the Interior in 1923 during the clash with Governor General Wood, I can say that he really is a clear-minded person. He did not hesitate because he knew that continuing his job or working in a group or a company where the basic moral principles are not that important, he's no longer giving a stance on his values and principles too, which I see as one of the reasons why we, the Filipinos, wherever or whenever we study or work, either for the private or for the public sector, we need to consider their guiding principles and values if it aligns to ours. We do not only work for money, but also we work for our nation's people and the country. Especially now that in our generation, which was and still is influenced by all the negatives. How can we live a life if the country that we live in is in bad shape? We need more of Jose Paciano Laurel's follower that someday will become a leader. And I believe that it must have to start with me and you who are watching this video. There you have it. Those are the 10 things that we've learned and discovered in the life of Jose Laurel that made a good impression and at the same time inspired us to continue his outstanding legacy. So with that, our group hopes that this video inspires you to do also what Laurel did for his people and his country. Thank you so much for watching. Until our next one.